All right, everybody. This is a kind of a redo because I have posted a video over demand earlier, but really didn't like the way it was. So what I decided to do is I'm just going to go do the notes like I do in class, but the only difference is instead of it being all on a big dry erase board, I'm going to do it on a sheet of paper. So today is just looking at the idea of demand. So demand is actually important. It's one of the memes of economics where people that don't know about economics, they at least know what supply and demand are, at least the words of it. They may not know the details of it, but they know the name. So the idea of demand is governed by this basic principle, the law of demand. All right. And with the law of demand, there are two things that you think about: price and quantity demanded. All right. So when you ever see P, that is talking about price. When you see QD, that means quantity demanded. Now, price is literally just the price of that thing. Quantity demanded is really the amount of that people are going to want. So the idea is really this: as price goes up, quantity demanded will go down. And then on the flip side, as price goes down, quantity demanded will go up. So in short, it's this: the more expensive something is, the less people are going to buy of it. The cheaper something is, the more people are going to buy it. And that's really all it is in a nutshell. If you got this, congratulations, you got half of it. So, using this though, using this kind of equation, this model, for lack of a better term, we can then create a demand schedule. Now, a demand schedule is really just a fancy way of saying we can make a chart. Where I have my P and I have my quantity demanded. And then I can, I'll just make a simple example. But if you ever see this kind of trend where it's like, okay, $5, $4, $3, $2, $1, I will see one, two, three, four, and five. So if it's $5, the amount that people are going to demand will be one. If it's $4, the amount that people will demand will be two. $3, the amount that people will demand will be three. So if you see this kind of trend, if you see this inverse relationship, to throw a math word out there, if you see that, you are looking at the law of supply, or I'm sorry, the law of demand. Law of supply is next time. Law of demand in action. Now, what we can then do is we can take this chart and then we can actually make a graph with that. And so here's, I'm going to put my price. I'm going to put my quantity here. Now, you notice I just have a Q here for quantity. I'm not going to do full quantity demanded because, spoiler alert, what we're going to do is we're going to put both demand and supply together eventually. We're not going to do that yet. But this covers the quantity side. The line that I put in, that will cover the demand. And this is what we call the demand line. And what I can do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my point, 5 price, 1 quantity demanded. There we go. 4, $4, 2 for quantity demanded. 3 and 3. 4, I'm sorry, $2 for quantity demanded. $1, 5 quantity demanded. So there's my points, and I can put them all together, and boom, there's my demand line. Now, I always label my demand line. I label it D. That's a good rule of thumb to just follow whenever you're doing this. So What then happens is, let's just say hypothetically, I'm going to use the same numbers, and I'm going to just draw another graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's that. There's my points. There you go. So then I'm just going to go through and connect them all together. Label my graph D, or my line D, because that's just a good habit to do. Now, let's just say I'm going to change. Whenever you see a triangle, that means change. Change in quantity demanded. And that means if I'm just going to just change what I'm doing. So let's just say hypothetically, I change my price from $4. So let's say I'm starting right here at $4 for my price. I'm going to raise or lower my price to $2. So there's my $2. There we go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch colors to make this look a little better. But this is my starting point. And then this is going to be my new endpoint. So just to keep it simple, my starting point, I'm just going to label it A. Where I'm going to label it B. And then now, I'm just going to show the movements of the point along that line. All right? So, I started off at A, now I'm at B. And this shows a change in quantity demanded. All I did, the only thing I did, was I just price. That's the only thing I changed. I changed price only. That was the only thing I changed. Nothing else. I just go into my store one day and I say, you know what? I'm going to raise my price. Let's say I'm selling donuts. And I sell nice donuts because they're $4 a pop. But I decide, you know what? I'm going to lower my prices and see what happens. So what does that mean? I'd take my price down. I now have more customers. There you go. Now, what happens if something else comes along and changes things? Because things happen. More things happen than just a change in price. Things come along, and they can be a lot of things. So this is where we have a change in demand. Okay? Now, many economists, they have a long list of things that can make a change in demand, and they call these determinants. And what I do for my classes, because again, I'm not going to give all my students a list of 20 things to look at. Some economists have done 7, some have 8. I've seen up to 10, but I prefer to stick it to a list of 5. Short, 5, easy list to digest. And really, the idea is this. First one is the income effect. Now, the income effect is really this. How much money do people make? Do they make a lot of money? Do they make a little money? Did they get a raise? Did they lose their job? How might that impact their consumption? So that's the income effect. The second is substitutions. So if one thing is more expensive, can someone substitute that product or that good for another one? So like, for example, let's say you go to the grocery store and you see that beef is now really expensive. Or even more real example, I don't buy grapes anymore. Why? Because the last time I bought grapes, they were $10 a bag of grapes. Needless to say, I had to do a double take. So the next time I went and looking for fruit to buy, I just bought more apples. So that's substitution. So I exchanged one fruit for another fruit because the fruit was so expensive. Then you have complements. And complements is, think burgers and fries. Whenever we go to a burger place, we usually get fries. There you go. So let's say you go to McDonald's or something, and their burgers now for a combo meal for just the burger is now 25 bucks. Are you going to be partaking of their French fries? Probably not, because again, one goes with the other. Income effects, substitutions, complements. Then the other is expectations. And this is kind of, hey, we saw this during the great toilet paper shortage of 2020. Because remember, when the coof happened, everything starts shutting down, people are screaming, we're all going to die. What did people do? Oh, we need to stock up now on things like toilet paper, because if we don't stock up on toilet paper, we're not going to have toilet paper in the future because supply chains are shutting down, all the other good stuff. So people went off because they were expecting people to not have toilet paper. They went and they bought toilet paper. Or like when you go to a store, a little less extreme, but you see a sale. You go, you see the sale sign, you don't expect the sale to be there forever, so people buy that thing on sale now. And then lastly, you got your change in preferences. Really, in short, it's this. Is it popular? Do people like it? Pause. So yeah, like I was saying, when it comes to change in preferences, is this something popular? Um, and again, are people willing to pay for it? For example, real world thing, the Tickle Me Elmo craze of I don't know, early 2000s maybe, late 90s. Um, there was this doll, the little fascist called Elmo, and it was the Tickle Me Elmo. You've probably still seen them. Maybe your kid has them. I don't care. Elmo's still a fascist, but he was really popular, and people were dropping hundreds of dollars, even in some cases upwards of $1,000 for that doll of the little fascist Elmo. Again, he's one of my sworn enemies. But these are things that cause a shift in demand. Now, a shift in demand is done a little differently because same basic thing, but instead of me just moving along the point, like if all I was to do just to change my price, is the line itself will actually move. So, what does this look like? Well, it looks like this. So, let's just, because Elmo's red. Um, so, because you have a change in preferences in something, the Elmo doll, it's so popular. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants it. And what happens is then the line itself will actually move as a result. I forgot to label my lines. But these are things this is what happens. So if any of these five determinants, or any of the others that some economists have tacked on, I just run with five because five, it's easy. We got 5 fingers, so there you go. But income effects, substitutions, complements, expectations, change in preferences, if anything along these lines change, and it is going to make people consume more, have a higher demand, it is going to shift it to the right to show an increase in demand. On the flip side, what you can also have is a decrease. So let me just do another little example down here. I'll make it a little bit on the smaller end. But like take for example, someone like Britney Spears. When she first came out, she was really, really popular. And then she went crazy, started shaving her head so she could match her baby and stuff like that. But then, because she went so off the rails, people are going, I don't really want to watch her stuff anymore because she's crazy. So that's a change in preference as well. And you will see a line kind of going like that. Oops, make that 2. And you'll see a decrease in demand. So this is kind of what demand is. So it comes in 2 flavors. You have your law of demand, got your demand schedule, but then when you have your change in quantity demanded, which is just a change in price only, what you're going to see is a movement along that line. if it's a change with a not just a change in the price of that good or service, and it falls under one of these determinants, and again, this is the short list that I run with, change in one of these things, then the line itself will actually move. It'll either move to the right, showing an increase in demand, or it will move to the left, showing a decrease in demand. And this is pretty much demand in a nutshell. Um, so I'll kind of pause this one here. And what I'm going to do is probably for my next video is I'm going to kind of go through some examples of these. Because again, it's one way or it's one thing to be, oh, okay, that's demand, yada, yada, yada. But then when you actually begin to work on this stuff and you actually see this stuff play out, it can get a little bit of a headache. And so, yeah, I'll just leave it there. And, yeah, it's not hard, but it's just one of those you just got to make sure you got your steps right. And so, yeah, so next time will just be some examples. And aside from that, I really got nothing left to say. I'm out.